We can sit here in existential dread because it's true, because that's what this looks like. You're born, you live, and no matter how long you live, it's never long enough. Even if you live a long time, 100 years, I'm going to be 100. It's not enough time, man. Against the backdrop of eternity, against the backdrop of 15 billion years that the universe has been here, man, 100 years doesn't even register as a blip. And that's just one person's life and all of that. And you can start to get a real sense of existential dread thinking about how almost meaningless the whole thing is. And all of the suffering, all of the pain, it occurs to me once in a while, I think, my God, I've studied a lot. I've read a lot. I've thought a lot. And once I'm gone, all of that effort is gone. You know, just dissipated. And so how do you make it matter? These are ways that we seek to expand our own meaning, because the terror of existence can be so overwhelming, and that's why it even happens at this unconscious level. And so every effort of humanity is an attempt to transcend that terror of death, because we want to matter. We want all of this to matter. I mean, wouldn't it suck? You go through all this suffering and everything, and at the end it just doesn't matter. And you go through all of high school and you don't get a diploma, it doesn't matter. You go through all of life at the end, it doesn't matter. We want it to matter, and that's why finding some meaning, finding some purpose matters to us. And finding connections and making connections, as many as possible, expands the scope of our existence. Find beauty. And if nothing else, find something that makes all of the suffering of this world worthwhile. To transcend it. And maybe even contribute to it in some way. So her thing was like, let's have more abortions in the black and brown parts of town, because we want to promote this idea of better genes. So it starts off as a group that's designed to try to eradicate inner city populations. That's her whole point of it. Now, that's why people will mention her and say, oh yeah, she was an early advocate for reproductive rights, but they won't oftentimes tell you much more than that. But you can look it up. You can find out the things that she wrote and the things that she said. Now, I'm not pointing at her specifically and saying, horrible person. Yeah, horrible person. But that was going on at the same time as what was happening in Germany, which was the same stuff that was happening all throughout Europe, which was also happening in Asia. Because when you look at how science was kind of moving at that time, we had discovered genetics not too long before that. And it kind of makes sense that you have this brand new study. And you're like, what can we do with this study? What can we can make better corn. But this is what humans do. We can make a better corn. Yeah, we can make chickens that have more meat on them. Sure, we could do that. Okay, but hear me out. We can also make better people. And before we sit there and go like, oh, why would they? That doesn't make any sense. Like, they have to realize that that we're all human. We're trying to do it right now with like brain implants and cybernetic enhancements to our bodies. It's not too different. The idea is that we're always trying to make something better. They based it off of race. We're basing it off of something else. We're always trying to do that. But at the core of it is this idea that humans, I guess at the core of it is this very pessimistic view of humanity. Why do we want to try to make humanity better? Well, we only do that if we feel like humanity sucks. And not just like it could be better, but like we want to get rid of other parts. Like we want to get rid of, by having neural implants, brain implants, we want to get rid of ignorance or lack of knowledge, or however we're going to frame it nicely. And so they framed it in terms of genetics, but it's happening all over the world at that time. Nazi Germany, the difference between them and most of the rest of the world was just ideology. They were trying to create a specimen of a perfect human. But give it time, everybody was going to get there. There were already those movements here in the United States. It just didn't catch fire. And because it got ahead over in Germany, then we were able to look at it at that and go, holy crap, that's where we would have been in 20, 30 years if we had kept going. And they were just ahead of the world in that. So they were a good model of what not to be. Not only did you get your ass kicked in a war, but then you also have all those other things. exposed about your culture. So then we back off and we're like, okay, maybe we shouldn't do that. And so a lot of what the world is that, it's this constant process. And it wasn't even something that was brand new in the early 20th century. And you go back, there are lots of times in world history where we attempted to do stuff like that. At some point, we have to grapple with it and figure out if that's just what humans do. So, yeah, JJ.
I put that, I think you say that when a man feels less special about his personality, or he feels like not too much people enjoy his company or whatever, that he tries to make up for his flaws in his culture, or things that he does. For example, just because he wants to fit in with big groups of people. For example, say someone is not no one really likes them, but they're good at playing the guitar. So they join the.
Are you talking about me, dude?
They join.
I'm not a very good guitarist, but go ahead.
They join a mariachi, and then they play the guitar, and then everybody likes.
He is talking about me.
Everybody likes the way he plays the guitar, so then that's one way he's able to fit in to a culture or people who enjoy that type of music.
Goddamn right. And if I'm playing mariachi guitar, what of course clearly is the best kind of music to play?
Spanish music?
Mariachi.
Why?
Why? That's because I'm playing it. I'm playing it because it's the best, right? And I can connect myself to my culture that way and then we can even get to a point of everything else sucks. This is the real music. In other words, it doesn't just become a matter of fitting in with the culture. It's now a matter of elevating that culture. This is not only do I fit in with this culture, but now I fit in, right? Yeah, okay, good, because we're the best. And of course, who's the best? I guess it depends on what culture you're part of. That's what culture is. It's this constant process of trying to fit in, to find a meaning, to find a purpose. And you ask the question, well, why? There's a couple of reasons for it. Ultimately, the desire to fit in, because we talk about it's a terrible thing. Oh, you're just doing that because you want to fit in. Well, do you want to be at war with the whole world? Do you want to be at war with everybody around you? Everybody wants to fit in to some degree. And even, I grew up as a punk rock kid. Punk rock is all about not fitting in. So we all dress alike, listen to the same bands, go to the same shows, because we're all individuals. It's no, you're just fitting in with a different counterculture, that's all. Because we're all seeking a sense of belonging. Now, going back to that why, if you remember, it's because we're ultimately seeking two things. First off, survival, in a very kind of primal sense. We don't survive unless we're part of a group. Going back, evolutionarily a few 100,000 years, if you're living by yourself on the savannah somewhere, it's only you're not going to survive very long. And I was thinking about, I was watching something recently, an interview with a guy who goes in and does a bunch of research in the rainforests in Brazil, the Amazon. My gosh, you guys ever seen that stuff? It's crazy. You pee in the wrong river and you die. You get just little things that we think of. Right now, I have a little tiny scratch on. Sorry, I have a big giant scratch, big manly wound on the back of my hand. You can see it right here. If you squint, you can kind of see it. I got this through heavy mortal combat with another man, and we look at it. We're like, dude, it's a little tiny scratch. But in the Amazon, that could become horrible because you sweat so much, it's humid, and you don't think much of it. And you go to sleep and you wake up. And it gets a little bit infected. Even right now, it's a little bit infected. Well, no big deal. But if you're in the Amazon, every insect that's over there can smell that wound. And everything, you'll wake up and you'll find insects around it, trying to lay eggs inside of it. It's dude, a little tiny thing like that? Yeah. It's disgusting. You can't even, and the thing is, you can't even shower because if you use soaps and things, then every creature in the area can smell you because you smell different, you stand out. So you have to not shower. And then, of course, that means that you get dirt and grime and stuff on you. So I'm going to go shower. I'm going to go clean up in the river. Maybe, if there's no piranha in there. And again, don't pee in the river. Some of you might know what I'm talking about. There's certain fish, there's these little things that if you pee in there, they swim inside you. They follow the pee and they swim inside you. Yeah, in the worst possible way. And there's nothing they can do about that except to yeah, I saw this, they were talking to this one explorer that happened to him, but they were very much against killing him. So they just tied him to a tree and let him die this way, in some of the worst ways possible. And you think like, how long would you survive in the Amazon? Minutes, days at the most. But if you were born there and you were part of a group maybe even, and you grew up in it, well now you know what to avoid, because there are tribes that live there still today, uncontacted by the way. I think it's like 30-something tribes never contacted by civilization. And they have no idea we exist out here. I'll talk more about that in the third quarter. But they're out there and they've managed to survive all of this time, and you think like, how? Like you had to have gotten something wrong at some point. And yeah, that's how they found out. One of their guys was over there and he's like, oh, look at this frog. He seems pretty cool. Let's name him. Take him back to the village. All of a sudden he drops dead. And they're going, why did he die? He was handling the frog. Maybe we shouldn't touch those frogs. And it turns out, yeah, there's frogs over there that are poisonous. You just touch them and you get infected and you die. So there's one guy who gave his life, and now the rest of us know. So one thing about joining a group is their survival. Now we live in cities, and so we still have that intuition in us to join groups, but there's another deeper reason as well. And it's a little bit more nefarious, it's more modern, but it's unconscious, which is that if I were to ask you, how important are you? How important are you? Now, you might think, well, one person out of 8 billion people on the planet, so how important are you among 8 billion people? And by the way, you're talking about just this planet. You ever see like those I guess scale pictures where it shows like Earth, and it'll say like you're here, and a little arrow pointing to it, and then it shows Earth like in the solar system, and then you see the solar system in the galaxy, and then you see we have one star. There are 500 million stars just in the Milky Way itself, half a billion stars, and almost all of them have planets on it. You're looking at trillions of planets. And it's so incredibly far. Even if you look at Mars at night, it looks like it's right there. And you can see it. It's orange. It sits out there. You can go look at it tonight. You'll know it's Mars because you'll look at it and you go, even if you've never noticed it before, you look and go, I bet that's what Mars would look like. It's just this red dot that doesn't twinkle. And if you wanted to go there, it would take you 2 to 3 years to travel there. And you can see it right there. And that's our closest planet. Unless Venus is closer. I'm not sure, Venus might be, actually Venus is closer, sorry. But Mars is very close as well. And then you can see Jupiter. Jupiter takes longer than that and longer than that. And then you sort of get a sense of how enormous our solar system is, and it's just one in 500 million solar systems in this galaxy. And this galaxy is one of roughly 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. And you can see how enormous and vast, expansive it all is. And you're worried about a test tomorrow? You're worried about something like that? And you can see that the problems of like this one person don't really amount to a whole lot. So what do? We can sit here in existential dread because it's true, because that's what this looks like. You're born, you live, and no matter how long you live, it's never long enough. Even if you live a long time, 100 years, I don't know if it'd be 100. It's not enough time, man. Against the backdrop of eternity, against the backdrop of 15 billion years that the universe has been here, man. 100 years doesn't even register as a blip. And that's just one person's life and all of that. And you can start to get a real sense of existential dread, thinking about how almost meaningless the whole thing is. And all of the suffering, all of the pain, it occurs to me once in a while, I think, my God, I've studied a lot. I've read a lot. I've thought a lot. Once I'm gone, all of that effort is gone. Just dissipated. And so how do you make it matter? One of the ways that we make it matter is, well, I might matter very, very, very little. But you know what? If you meet somebody, you get engaged, you get married, now you matter twice as much. So now it's not just me. Now I don't only matter for my own life, but now I matter to somebody else as well. And then you can actually maybe have some children, and then you start to matter even more. Now you've managed to triple or quadruple your meaning. And of course now there's something about you to stick around. Oh, and then you get political and you join a political party, let's say. Well, now you've multiplied your meaning even more because you're connected to more and more people. You play softball on weekends, Friday nights, and now you joined yourself to a team. There's more people there. You stay in touch with old friends on Instagram. And then there's even more people there. In other words, these are ways that we seek to expand our own meaning because the terror of existence can be so overwhelming, and that's why it even happens at this unconscious level. And so every effort of humanity is an attempt to transcend that terror of death because we want to matter. We want all of this to matter. I mean, wouldn't it suck? You go through all this suffering and everything, and at the end it just doesn't matter. And you go through all of high school and you don't get a diploma, it doesn't matter. You go through all of life at the end, it doesn't matter. We want it to matter, and that's why finding some meaning, finding some purpose matters to us. And finding connections and making connections, as many as possible, expands the scope of our existence. And that's one of the reasons that we hold this thing to be so important to us. If I'm playing mariachi, if I'm playing guitar in mariachi, mariachi must be the best. Because it's almost like I'm rescuing myself from meaninglessness. Because if you gotta choose something, might as well choose the best. Of course, a truly humble person will look at it and say, it's my favorite. There's lots of great stuff though, lots of great music. Like the music you guys listen to today, it sucks, you know that, right? Someday you'll have children, and you're gonna tell your children, the music you guys listen to sucks. And someday your grandchildren will live, and so on and so on. But the music you listen to doesn't suck, it's just different. And if you shut yourself off and you can't appreciate new music, what's more enjoyable in life than music? Isn't it like one of the very few things that can bring us together? I was talking to a dude last period. He's new in my class, and you can't tell from looking at me now, but like I said, I was a punk rock kid, and I played in punk bands, toured, opened up for a band called the Misfits. If you know who the Misfits are, we opened up for them. You'd never know from looking at him. I'm looking at him, he's got a shirt on, and I recognized the band, and I mentioned to him, and then we spent a good part of last period talking about it. I'm way older than this dude, man, and we're talking about the same music, the same bands that transcend time. And now we're connected by music. He can bring stuff into me, I can bring in stuff to him, and play him stuff, and there's that connection. And if you can realize that there's great music in every genre, except for reggae. Reggae sucks, but every other genre of music has great stuff in it. And every time period has it. And so you can expand the scope of your connection, not just to the people you know directly, but to humanity, to arts. We find beauty everywhere. Music today, there's some stuff that sucks. There was some stuff that sucked when I was a kid. There was some stuff that sucked from the 50s. Whatever. You can find great music in every genre, except for reggae, in every genre, in every time period, if you allow yourself to. And if nothing else, you can expand the scope of your human experience this way. Find beauty. And if nothing else, find something that makes all of the suffering of this world worthwhile. To transcend it. And maybe even contribute to it in some way. Yeah. 100%, man. Good. Sometimes you get to a point you got to kind of narrow down which story you're going to tell. Like there's a band called The Smiths. Have you guys ever heard The Smiths? Anybody? If you haven't heard The Smiths, you need to listen to The Smiths. The Smiths are the greatest band to ever exist. You don't believe me? Argue with me. I will fight you on it. The Smiths are the greatest band ever. And they're not even in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How fucking rock and roll is that, dude? They won't even take them in the Hall of Fame. That's how rock they are. Anyway, the Smiths are the greatest band ever. And the neat thing is if you come in and you're wearing a Smiths t-shirt, first off, you cannot listen to a record from the Smiths without walking away thinking, I wonder if he's talking about me. Yeah, I know they broke up in like 1987, but somehow, some way, that's about me, even though I didn't even exist yet. Because the lyrics are such that you can connect with it. And you can listen to the song. I can listen to the song in two different continents, two different time periods, and yet there's some kind of a connection there. And you can realize that the music can connect you because the artist comes along and says something, and you go, I feel just like that. You know? You ever want to tell someone, just sit down, be humble. Maybe. If so, yeah, maybe you're sitting there in your car actually later on, and you're singing along to Kendrick, and you're like, sit down, be humble, that's right, bitch, be humble. And you guys ever sat there in your car and you're driving down the street and you're like, yeah, fuck the police, coming straight from the underground, something, 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 I don't know, because I'm brown. And then there's a cop in the car right next to you, so you turn it down. And he drives away and you bump it back up, that's right, pig. Because it isn't even like, maybe you don't agree with every word, but there's an energy there that can make you feel like you're not so damn alone. That's the beauty of it all. It can make you feel like, wow, you too, huh? You too. That's what's great about going to a concert. You look around and you're like, all of you guys also? Just don't be that guy who's like, I was into them before you were all here. Who cares? Who cares, man? Be happy for them. Because they found something great, something beautiful, something that makes the sufferings of life worthwhile. Yeah. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Ruby and then Lord Benjamin.